You ever feel that? The harder someone tries to push you to do something, the more you just want to dig in your heels and do the exact opposite. It's this weird, almost automatic human instinct, this need to just push back. Well, today, we're going to unpack the psychology behind that totally predictable rebellion. And we're going to start with a pretty wild example from the modern world.
So, our story begins, of all places, in the world of online gaming. There's this creator, Bitzel, who loves to lay traps for other players. But here's the crazy part. The traps are super obvious. He's practically screaming, "Hey, this is a trap!" And yet, time and time again, players walk right into them. It's hilarious to watch, for sure, but it also opens up this fascinating puzzle about why we do the things we do.
And that right there, that's the big question for our explainer today. What is going on here? From a gamer who knowingly springs an obvious trap to, a kid who does the opposite of everything their parents say. What is this incredibly powerful force that makes us resist being told what to do?
Well, the answer starts when we realize this impulse isn't just, random stubbornness. Nope. It's actually a predictable, hardwired part of our psychology. It's like we all have this built-in freedom reflex.
Just think about it. It's like when you touch a hot stove, right? You don't think about it. You just pull your hand back. It's a reflex. In the same way, when your mind feels like its freedom to choose is being threatened, it just instinctively recoils. It's this deep, intrinsic push for autonomy that we all have. You could call it a freedom reflex.
So this freedom reflex thing, it isn't just a catchy phrase. It actually has a formal name in psychology. There's a whole theory that perfectly explains this powerful, almost automatic urge to just say, no. And here it is. It's called psychological reactance. The theory was developed way back in the 1960s by a psychologist named Jack Brem. And look, it sounds a little academic, I know, but the idea is actually really simple. It's a motivational state. When you feel like one of your freedoms is being threatened or taken away, your brain kicks into high gear with a single mission: get that freedom back, no matter what.
Okay, so how does this reactance thing actually work? Well, it pretty much unfolds in a clear sequence. It all starts with our basic innate human need for control. Then, when a rule or a demand or even just a really pushy sales pitch comes along, we perceive it as a threat to that freedom. That threat then creates these negative feelings, like anger or frustration. And those feelings, well, they don't just sit there. They motivate us to act, to do something, anything to prove that we're still the ones in charge of our own decision.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Because this freedom reflex, this reactance, it can be triggered completely by accident, or it can be triggered on purpose.
Let's compare two sides of the very same coin. On one side, you've got the boomerang effect. This is when a totally well-intentioned message just completely backfires. For example, some studies have shown that really aggressive, in-your-face anti-smoking campaigns can actually make certain people want to smoke more because the message feels way too controlling. Then on the other side, you have reverse psychology. This is the deliberate use of reactance. You tell someone to do the opposite of what you actually want because you're counting on their freedom reflex to kick in and guide them right where you wanted them to go all along.
And boom, this brings us right back to our gamer Bitzel. He knows the other player wants to outsmart him. So by making the trap ridiculously obvious, he's doing more than just setting a physical trap in the game. He's using reverse psychology. He's banking on the other player's powerful desire to reestablish control, to prove they're smarter, to make them pull that lever. See? He's not just trapping their character, he's trapping their psychology.
Okay, so we've seen how reactance can be used in these little one-on-one mind games, but this stuff also scales up, way up. The world around us is literally filled with systems that are designed to guide our choices, often in ways we don't even notice.
The technical term for all this is choice architecture, and it's built on a simple but really profound idea. There is no neutral way to present a choice. It just doesn't exist. The way options are framed, how many there are, the order they're in, what's already checked for you, all of it has a huge impact on the final decision you make.
And maybe the single most powerful tool in the choice architect's entire toolkit is the default option. Defaults are just incredibly effective because of plain old inertia. We tend to just stick with whatever's pre-selected for us because, well, it's easier. And on some level, we kind of assume the default is the one that's recommended anyway.
And this is a fantastic illustration of that power. Just check this out. In countries where you have to actively opt in to become an organ donor, check a box, the registration rates are often pretty low. But in countries where you are an organ donor by default and you have to actively take a step to opt out, the rates just skyrocket. We're talking sometimes more than double. It's the same people making the same choice, but a tiny change in the design leads to a radically different outcome. It's wild.
Now, there's a whole philosophy behind this kind of design. It's sometimes called libertarian paternalism. I know, it sounds like a complete contradiction, right? But the idea is actually simple. You can gently nudge people toward what's generally seen as a better choice, like becoming an organ donor, while always preserving their freedom to say no. You're not forcing anyone, you're just making the better choice the easier choice.
Okay, so let's bring this all home. We've gone on a pretty wild journey here, from a video game trap all the way to these massive systems that shape entire societies.
So, to recap, we started with that powerful freedom reflex that we all have, which is officially called reactance. We saw how even good intentions can accidentally trigger it and cause a boomerang effect. And of course, how it can be exploited on purpose through reverse psychology. And finally, we saw how this deep understanding of our own nature is used on a massive scale through choice architecture to design the very decisions we make every single day.
And all of that leaves us with one final, and I think really important question. Now that you know that our choices are always being designed in some way, how do we decide what's a helpful nudge for the better and what crosses the line into a subtle, hidden manipulation? That line isn't always clear, but now, at least, you know to look for it.